Watching us tonight, the responsibility that comes with protests, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. If you have been watching Legends and Lives of Patriots, you can see how effective protests against the British were in the American colonies. In fact, protests led directly to the freedoms we have today. The civil rights marches led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a pacifist, were also very effective in mobilizing public opinion against Jim Crow laws and bias in general. Dr. King got a lot of accomplishments before he was assassinated. Now we have another protest situation in the USA whereby many African Americans believe that law enforcement works actively against them.
If you are a normal white American, the truth is you don't understand being black in America, and you instinctively underestimate the level of discrimination and the level of additional risk.
Mr. Gingrich is essentially correct. Skin color is a very personal situation. Every one of my black friends has felt diminished at times because of their complexions. It's wrong. There's no excuse for it, but it happens in every country. Enter American law enforcement, which is now under siege for allegedly treating black Americans more harshly than white Americans. Talking Points does not believe there is a design campaign of prejudice. What is happening here is cause and effect. Because black Americans commit far more crimes proportionally than whites or other ethnic groups, they come into contact with police more often. And that contact sometimes turns volatile. However, the key stat in the USA is that less than 2% of all police-civilian interactions result in any kind of physical confrontation. That's extremely low. The issue of incarceration again deals with crime. The inner-city drug traffic and the violence that comes along with that has put American police agencies and law-abiding citizens in a dangerous place. It's no surprise that black and Hispanic drug traffickers are arrested and incarcerated. No surprise. Their numbers are greater proportionally than white drug traffickers. Now back to the protests. The key group driving violence on the streets is Black Lives Matter. After 5 police officers were killed in Dallas, a Black Lives Matter organizer, Sir Major, said this according to the Associated Press, quote, "Black Lives Matter doesn't condone shooting law enforcement, but I have to be honest. I understand why it was done. I don't encourage it, I don't condone it, I don't justify it, but I understand." Now that's a provocative statement in the extreme. Understanding terrorism, which is what happened in Dallas, terrorism, it's not difficult. You get an evil human being who kills people, a 5-year-old can understand that. Major says he doesn't condone it, so what's the point of understanding it? Again, a ridiculous, irresponsible statement. But we have come to expect that kind of thing from Black Lives Matter, which chanted about police here in New York City, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Unfortunately, President Obama does not seem to understand the vitriol.
In a movement like Black Lives Matter, there's always going to be some folks who say things that are stupid or imprudent or overgeneralize or are harsh. And I don't think that you can hold well-meaning activists who are doing the right thing and peacefully protesting responsible for everything that is uttered at a protest.
With all due respect to President Obama, well-meaning activists do not associate themselves with a group that often commits violent acts and encourages violence through irresponsible rhetoric. Dr. King would not participate in a Black Lives Matter protest. Of course, the liberal American media largely sympathetic to the street demonstrations, even if they do turn violent. How many more times are we going to have to see Black Lives Matter protesters destroy stuff? How many more times? Yet if you criticize the group, you're branded a bigot by some far-left media precincts. Do you know that shortly after the Dallas police were murdered, a cop in Missouri was shot and critically wounded by a black man? The St. Louis County Police Chief says it was an assassination attempt. The accused shooter, 31-year-old Antonio Taylor, has a long rap sheet. He's a thug. In Minnesota, another police officer hit in the head by a concrete brick thrown by a protester on Saturday night. You guessed it. The demonstration was organized by Black Lives Matter. So again, Mr. President, you might want to back away from protesters who believe violence is acceptable. Summing up, you want to protest? Good. Make sure you have your facts straight and don't hurt anybody or destroy anything. And I